world's most mysterious and dangerous place, Fells Point, a location not just built with bricks and stones, but soaked in blood, secrets, and spirits. Here, time stands still, and the past walks right up to you. This is the old waterfront district of Baltimore, Maryland, where the river's waves still whisper centuries-old secrets. In this video, we'll uncover what truly happened in the narrow lanes of Fells Point, who disappeared here, and what unseen forces still linger in the shadows. This is a story of fear, of truth, and of a woman who witnessed something no one was ever meant to see. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on more mysterious tales like this. And if you enjoy the video, please give it a like and share it with others. Now, it's time to dive deep into the story. Get ready, because what you're about to hear isn't just a tale. It's the haunting truth of Fells Point. I never believed in ghosts until I came to Fells Point. It was supposed to be a simple assignment as a freelance documentarian. I'd covered everything from Revolutionary War reenactments to haunted lighthouses when a client from DC hired me to do a short film on Baltimore's maritime history. I expected the usual: historic buildings, rusty anchors, salty air. I booked a room at the Admiral Fell Inn, famous for its harbor view and charming colonial brickwork. My room was on the 4th floor, room 413. The hallway tilted just slightly, and the door creaked like it hadn't been opened in years. As I unpacked, I noticed the air felt unusually heavy, like the room had been holding its breath. That night, I awoke to a noise, a faint shuffling, like something dragging along the floorboards. I told myself it was an old building, but when I turned on the lamp, the bulb flickered violently, and then I saw the smear, blood red, along the edge of the wooden floor, creeping toward the bed like a shadow that didn't belong. I checked out the next morning, but I didn't leave Fells Point because I needed answers. I started with the horse you came in on, Baltimore's oldest bar. The bartender was a wiry man with a sailor's beard and a look that said he'd seen things no one would believe. He told me the jukebox sometimes played on its own, and if the Victrola starts playing on its own run, at exactly 12, the national anthem played. No one was near the machine. At Duda's Tavern, the bartender refused to talk, said the jukebox played polka at 3 a.m., no matter what. Doc's song, she muttered, eyes darting. He'll laugh if you delete it. Did it once, bottles shattered. I quit for a year. My camera equipment caught strange feedback. At each location, images flickered. Sounds bled into silence. Figures moved just out of frame. But the worst came when I visited the Black Dog Saloon. The alley behind it felt wrong. Too quiet, too cold. I heard footsteps behind me, but no one was there. Locals believe it's Captain William Fell, still pacing the wharf where his ship once docked. Some say he's waiting for the crew he buried at sea after a mutiny. I believed none of it until I heard the screams, desperate, wet, clashing steel. I dropped my mic and ran. The basement of the Robert Long house. I wasn't allowed in after dark, but a worker gave me the key. You go alone, he said. I won't follow. Inside, shadows moved without a source, and I heard it, breathing, slow, inhuman, right behind me. But the final straw was the antique mirror at the Blue Moon Cafe. I'd heard stories. It shows things that aren't there. People in old clothes, blood, pleas for help. That night, I sat with my coffee glancing at the glass. She stood behind me. A woman in a blood-stained gown, mouthing words I couldn't hear. When I turned, no one. When I looked back, she was closer. I left before midnight, and still the dreams come. The taste of salt water, the cries of sailors, the child with the red ball. Some say it's the river, others blame ley lines or the iron in the water. But I know the truth now. Fells Point doesn't forget, it waits. And once you walk its cobbled streets, once you breathe the fog and touch the doorways where the dead still whisper, you don't leave Fells Point. It follows you home. The wind off the Patapsco carried the scent of brine and something fouler, like old blood left to rot in a cellar. Ethan Cole tightened his jacket and stepped off the cobblestones into the narrow corridor between two shuttered shops. He'd been chasing folklore for years, sleepy towns, haunted plantations, roadside graveyards. But Fells Point felt different. A smile tugged at Ethan's lips. I'll take that as a yes. Upstairs, the elevator groaned its way through the building's skeleton, finally jerking to a stop on the 4th floor. The doors creaked open. Hallway empty, dimly lit. The bulb above room 413 buzzed erratically, throwing spasms of light across the warped door. He stepped closer. The air was cooler here, damp with a smell that reminded him of meat left too long in the fridge. He knocked once, then twice. The door opened an inch. Nobody inside, just shadow, and the soft sound of dripping. He pushed it open. The room did lean, subtly, like it was sighing toward collapse. One corner sagged downward, and the furniture tilted with it, all angled slightly toward a reddish-black stain on the floorboard. He knelt to examine it. The boards were warped, scorched in places, as if something had tried to claw its way through. Ethan froze. The tapping came from the closet. 3 deliberate knocks. He turned slowly. The closet door creaked open a hair, then slowly wider. The shadows inside were too dense, like the light refused to go in. He moved forward cautiously, 1 step, then 2. Inside, he found nothing but a coat hook and a single word carved into the back wall. Suddenly, the door slammed shut behind him. He yanked it open, heart pounding. The hallway was no longer empty. A man stood at the far end, tall, drenched clothes, ragged. His eyes were sunken, and his mouth hung open as if mid-scream, but no sound came. Water dripped from his sleeves, forming a trail behind him. Then he stepped backward into the wall and vanished. Ethan bolted down the hallway, skipping the elevator entirely, bounding down 4 flights of stairs until he hit the lobby. Outside, the fog had thickened. It coiled like a living thing around lampposts, curled through the railings of the harbor, and wrapped itself around Ethan's legs as he stumbled toward the waterfront. He needed air. He needed to record everything. He reached for his phone. Dead. No signal. No bars. Not even a clock. Behind him, the bell above the Cat's Eye pub jingled, without a hand to move the door. The windows were dark. Inside, shadowy figures sat at the bar. None moved. None breathed. One lifted a glass, toasted, stared out directly at Ethan. A little girl in a cream-colored dress, clutching a red ball. Her skin was too pale, eyes too dark. She smiled, then tossed the ball toward him. It bounced once on the cobblestone. The ship had vanished a century ago, but there it was, tied to the dock, rocking gently in the mist. A gangplank extended toward him. Wet footprints led up it, and from deep inside the vessel came a low thump. Ethan turned to run, but the fog had thickened behind him, a wall of white. And in it, faint shapes twisted, men in sailor's garb, women in torn shawls, a man in a top hat clutching a bloody Bible. The Scorpio groaned, the gangplank creaked, and Ethan stepped aboard. The moment Ethan's boots touched the moss-slick gangplank, the air grew colder, not the natural chill of the harbor. No, this was something else. It carried the scent of seawater, mixed with mildew, rust, and something far more pungent, the faint rot of wet fabric and long decayed flesh. He stepped onto the deck of the Scorpio, the ship that vanished in 1923, and returned days later without a soul aboard. Each plank beneath his feet groaned, not just with age, but as if remembering something terrible, something it still carried in its wooden bones. Fog swirled over the deck, like fingers trying to pull him down. The ship was silent except for the distant lapping of water against its hull. And yet, Ethan could swear he heard breathing, low, labored, not his. At the far end of the ship stood the same little girl he'd seen at the harbor, her cream-colored dress soaked and clinging to her limbs, her red ball gone. Her eyes were completely black. She simply raised one hand and pointed down to the lower deck. Ethan hesitated. Every part of him screamed to leave, but he descended. The metal staircase creaked with each step, descending into the bowels of the ship, where light struggled to exist. The air was heavy, pressed in close, like a coffin. He moved through narrow corridors lined with doors, some open, some sealed shut with chains, and salt lines scratched into the wood. Something had tried to keep things in or out. He wasn't sure which was worse. Then from behind one half-open door, he saw flickering candlelight. Inside a small cabin, a rusted table, newspapers scattered across it, each headline more disturbing than the last. A sailor, or what was left of one. His face was half-burned, his skin bloated, like he'd just been pulled from the water. One eye dangled loose in its socket. Ropes hung from his shoulders, trailing behind him like tentacles. Ethan stumbled back, but didn't run. He couldn't. Like the ship, pounding footsteps grew louder, faster boots, dozens of them, stomping across the upper deck. But when Ethan looked up through the rusted grates in the ceiling, no one was there. They flickered like flame but moved like water, twisting, coiling, dancing across the wood. He turned back to the sailor. The man was no longer alone. More figures stood behind him now. Half-seen crewmen, all bloated, all waterlogged, their eyes hollow, some mouths sewn shut, others stretched unnaturally wide. One gripped a lantern, another clutched a child's red shoe. The sailor spoke again, his voice like the echo of a drowning man. "She marked us, but she chose you. You brought her back." Ethan staggered back, shaking his head. "No, I don't even know what this is. I'm just filming a documentary." But the sailor lunged, not to strike, to grab Ethan's hand, cold and slimy. With a flickering pulse of energy, Ethan's vision blurred. Suddenly, he was somewhere else. A flash of 1923, the Scorpio, in her prime, the deck bustling, men laughing, smoke curling from cigars, and coal-fired engines. A girl, that same girl in the cream-colored dress, is being led aboard by a desperate-looking couple. The mother weeps. The captain protests. "She can't come. We're over manifest. It's bad luck." The father presses money into his hand. "She won't be a problem." She doesn't talk. As the ship departs, the girl turns to look at the harbor. She doesn't wave. She doesn't blink. She smiles. Back in the present, Ethan gasped. "That was you," he rasped. "You're the bloodline. Her debt passed to your name. You called her back with your camera. You dug into stories that were meant to stay buried." Water began seeping from the cracks, dribbling like tears down the rusting metal. "She knows you're here." The ship tilted violently. Ethan stumbled, falling against the doorframe. Voices echoed below. A girl laughing. A captain screaming. 1,000 whispers saying the same phrase over and over. He bolted up the stairs, feet slipping on moss. Every corridor felt longer than before, turning in on itself like a maze that didn't want him to leave. The red ball rolled past his feet. He didn't see who pushed it. Back on deck, the fog was thicker, blinding. It swallowed the harbor lights. The water looked like oil. The little girl stood at the bow of the ship now, arms outstretched, waiting. Ethan's chest tightened. He wasn't looking at a ghost. He was looking at something older, something that had worn a girl's shape. "She doesn't want the ship," the sailor's voice echoed behind him. "She wants a vessel." A wave struck the side of the Scorpio, sending salt spray into the water. Churned below, like something alive. Ethan clung to the railing of the Scorpio, The fog coiled around him, heavy and warm, like breath on his neck. Behind him, footsteps approached, wet slaps of bare feet on the soaked wood. "You are never meant to find us," came a voice, not a child's voice anymore. It was many voices at once.